All right. Welcome to another member spotlight. Appreciate you guys who are on the Zoom, and for everybody watching on YouTube. We've got two more great members to get to know today. We've got Eric Simpkin and Amber Cunningham. So we're going to start off with Eric. What's up, Eric? How you doing, man?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Good. We were joking about it earlier, but like you shaved, you threw on a polo for this. It's a big deal.
Finally. Yeah, it feels weird in COVID. I haven't put on, well, I'm still not really, I'm wearing sweats, but I still feel more dressed up than I've been in a while.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us that because it's like,
I know. I realize that as long as I don't stand up.
No question. So Eric, you were most recently at USC Salkehatchie, but take us back to give us a quick overview of, your stops in your coaching journey.
Yeah, so I had kind of a wild coaching journey the past 6 years. I started in basketball when I was at University of Colorado Springs. And that's a great location for a sport management program because I volunteered with USA Basketball, which is in town. And at the time, I didn't know what I was getting into. Just answered a kind of an ad online for U16 national team tryout. Ended up being like a bunch of future first round picks with Jason Tatum and Josh Jackson, a bunch of guys like that. So after I volunteered with them, I realized that's when I wanted to get into basketball and make that my career. So I ended up volunteering with them a bunch throughout the summers, doing a bunch of mini camps on men's and women's sides. And then I was also the manager for UCCS for 2 years. And I picked probably the best 2 years in that program's history to jump on as a manager. That's when we had Derek White, who's the point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. So lucked out there. It was a great 2 years. We won the conference championship in the RMAC, broke a bunch of school records for wins, went to the national tournament for the first time, back-to-back years, and made it to the second round that second year. So that was great 2 years to be there. Learned a ton. I was one of two managers and two other coaches. So it was, kind of threw me in the fire, learned synergy and all that good stuff. After that, actually at the same time, I was an event management intern for the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, which was also a really amazing experience. Ended up running a 1,000 player tournament out in Louisville. At the age of, I think I was like 20 or something like that. I was way in over my head, but ended up being a successful tournament. And there were a lot of challenges with, a tournament of that size in general, but throwing in, handicap athletes made it difficult, but it was really rewarding and really eye-opening as well. So if any of you haven't watched wheelchair basketball, I would definitely recommend it. Look into it if you're a basketball fan. It's incredible. After that, jumped on with USA Basketball full time. I'd kind of been volunteering just sporadically, throughout my time as an undergrad with their youth development program that had just opened up. I think maybe the year before that. So it was a brand new program. We were running coaching academies right when that started. I was kind of running the open court program, which was basically all over the country, but really in LA, Chicago, New York, and Vegas. And we tried to open up like a safe place for kids to go play, basically pickup. So we kind of trained coaches around the country to open up either it was rec centers or high schools, things like that for kids just come play pickup or, learn from these coaches. Did a lot of just event management stuff for them. Ended up wanting to get back into coaching. So I jumped on as a 5th and 6th grade assistant coach for Colorado Premier, which is a big club here in Denver, actually run by Keith Van Horn, a former NBA player. And then ended up just kind of going into that graduate assistant coaching spot with UCCS. They ended up getting fully funded that year. So they had like pretty much a full-time position open. So I was really the first GA that they had some good 2 years. Wasn't quite like we were with Derek White, but, had winning records, made it to the conference tournament every year. Again, learned a lot there at the D2 level when you're a GA. It was just me and pretty much one other assistant. So I felt like I got to do a lot more on-court coaching, film stuff, learn how to do scouting reports and present them to the team. So that was great. Finished my master's in higher education and then struggled on the job front as always, but ended up just kind of randomly applying at USC Salkehatchie for a volunteer spot that they had. And Coach Jake called me and they ended up having a director of student activities job open as well. So I ended up doing that as well to make some money on the side. So running that program, but moved out to South Carolina for the past 2 years. This past year, we went 27-4, broke all the school records for wins, won the conference championship, got the 7th seed in the national tournament at Hutch. Then obviously COVID ruined all that, which was a bummer. I thought we could actually make a pretty deep run in that tournament with the talent we had. Ended up, most importantly though, graduating 7 sophomores. 5 are going D1. We got had a Memphis commit, St. John's, Arkansas State, North Texas, Coastal Carolina. So we had a really stacked team, and ended up finishing with a 3.2 GPA. I still don't really know how we did that, but we pulled it off. So it was a great learning experience. Again, past 2 years, if anyone's in the JUCO level, they'll know what I'm talking about. But we didn't have any scholarships, didn't have a dining hall, had a concrete floor, tiny weight room, no dorms, anything like that. So it was definitely a learning experience. And yeah, that's about it, Adam.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a lot.
All right. So I'm trying to think where I want to start. So let's talk about USA basketball, since that was, one of the first things you mentioned. Like, what was that experience like? Is that something that you were only able to do basically because you were already in Colorado Springs? And yeah, what's been like the biggest like lessons and takeaways from that experience?
Yeah, I've reflected on that a lot, just because at the time I was like 19, 20 years old, kind of getting thrown into that, and being around the best players in the country, as well as, any big name Division I coach you can think of was there as well. So it was an amazing experience. At one point I drove around John Calipari in Vegas during a like torrential rainstorm, and I was, which is one of the more nerve-wracking experiences of my life. But
What was that? What was the conversation like? Was it first of all, was it your car?
No, so it was a rental car. So for some reason they had a 20-year-old who had never been to Vegas driving, a guy worth a few $1 million around, and actually got him like kind of lost on the way to the coaching academy. And on the way back, it was like a torrential rainstorm, and no one knows how to drive in Vegas with rain because it never rains there. So the whole time I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm going to be on the news for getting in a wreck with John Calipari. It was a good conversation though. He's an intense guy. He kind of right at the coaching academy, he was like, no, I'm going on now. We ended up changing he didn't have any plan for what he was going to say at the coaching academy. Ended up giving this like amazing speech for an hour long, blew everyone's minds. And then I took him home. So I was like, that was pretty awesome. But yeah, just in general, reflecting on it, I wish I would have been better at networking. I met a lot of coaches, but I never followed up with them. And being that young, I think I was just, way too nervous to really follow up with these coaches. And I didn't really know the landscape of the coaching business at the time. Had I known, I would have, done way more networking with some of these big name coaches and followed up with them in the future. But even still, just kind of being on the side, running the clock, cleaning the floors while these guys were coaching was pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And then, what is the biggest benefit? You talk about like, meeting all these coaches during your time there. What about like the day to day? Like, is it just, and talk a little bit about like the workouts and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention, it helped being in Colorado Springs. And the sport management program had good relationships with all the NGBs in that town. So that made it easier, but USA basketball they'll bring in, coaches basically from all over the country, as well as managers. Like I think we had like a Marquette manager and a few other people. So if you email them, you know what I mean? If you're a manager out there, they might respond and bring you out, but it definitely helps. I mean, it was extremely lucky being in town. Day to day, it was a lot like just being a manager for a Division, 1 or 2 school. I was cleaning the floors, filling up water, running the clock, shot clocks, rebounding for guys, doing the laundry, things like that. And then, especially on the women's side, I was able to jump in a lot more, especially during practices, because of course the men's side had like 30 managers who were all trying to volunteer, but then the women's side, it was typically just me and a few other people. So I was able to really jump in. Don Staley was one of the coaches when I was, I think it was the U18 team that I was volunteering for with like Sabrina Ionescu and all those big name Division I players. So I was able to do a lot more, not necessarily coaching, but jumping in drills and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. That's an experience that I'm sure like people would, you know, fall over hand and foot for. Uh, and then you go to USC Salkehatchie, which traditionally had not been a good program. But you mentioned like you were on staff there with Jake Williams, who just left, but you guys had tremendous success. What was that like transition to JUCO life?
Oh, it
Like,
was rough at first. I won't lie. Like, going from, again, USA basketball, where I'm wearing like the nicest Nike gear around, thinking I'm all that, and then being at a high level D2, with an NBA draft pick, and then it felt like I was going down, I won't lie, a level when I went JUCO, especially with the school not being, very nice with a middle school sized court and everything. So at first it was rough. I was definitely a little bummed out, but then right when we started practice, I kind of realized like what Jake Williams was about, the guys he brought in, and I knew kind of how legit we were going to be, and that helped out a lot. Having a guy like Vince Cole going to St. John's and Ahmad Rand going to Memphis, and I swear Ahmad's going to be a draft pick in the NBA, so that helped. But yeah, at first it was definitely rough, Adam. Especially just like little things you take for granted at the Division I, Division II level with USA basketball, like having a trainer on hand every day. That was something I was not used to. So I took guys to the emergency rooms probably 3 or 4 times because during practice they got cuts or popped a shoulder out or a finger, you know what I mean? And that's a lot of liability for a coach to try to pop a shoulder back in place. So as well as just not having a dining hall, you know what I mean? We had to get creative with how to feed these guys. Luckily I was the director of student activities on campus as well. So, with events I did on campus, I would try to get the guys to the events, if only just to eat the food, with like pizza parties and all that kind of stuff. So we got creative with it, but yeah, I'll never ever complain about wherever I go an issue that we had or that I'll have, just because I know at the JUCO level and especially at Salk, we had it way worse. So it was definitely a humbling experience.
yeah, how did that experience prepare you for like whatever's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I really am like way more confident that I can be successful at just about anywhere. Not only was I coaching, but like I said, I was the director of student activities, which I did. That was a full-time job. It wasn't just kind of something I did just for a few hours during the day. I worked a full 8 hours doing activities. Would go right to practice for a few hours, right to study hall. So I was basically working 10 to 12-hour days every day. We didn't have any academic advisors either, really. So that kind of fell on me as well. So every day was a grind. So I feel like just in terms of preparing me for my next job, I'm pretty confident that I can be successful wherever I go. Just because of how little we had at Salk, and it was that much more rewarding too. Also, we lost in the conference championship our first year by like 3 points. It was heartbreaking. I've never been that sad in my life, just because you work so hard at the JUCO level to get to that point, and then it just takes everything out of you when you lose. But then to come back the next year and win it was definitely one of the more gratifying experiences of my life.
Yeah, for sure. You get so much, you just get thrown in and have to do everything that, like you said, if you can do it there, you can really do it anywhere.
Absolutely.
Okay. So speaking of that, what is next for you? Jake Williams left, took another job, which that's the business, right? Like sometimes you don't have success and you find yourself out of a job. And sometimes you have so much success that you find yourself out of a job. I swear coaching is the only profession like that. So like how have you handled like the job hunt this summer, and like what's next for you?
Yeah, good question. It was definitely a wild off season, just with COVID kind of ruining our national tournament hopes. And then Coach Jake was up for, or in the talks for, a number of different jobs around the country. So it was always kind of, where is he going to end up? Ended up landing that Dodge City job. I was just talking to them this morning actually, and they were giving me a little tour of the campus there in the gym, and it's unbelievable. And it's funny to hear them go from a tiny little middle school sized gym to Dodge City. It's like going from high school to Madison Square Garden. But it was rough. He only had a volunteer spot open for me, which, I was still considering taking just because, he's a really high level coach, helps you promote you, and he'll make a call for me whenever I need him to. But at the same time, I've been working with full-time salary for the past 2 years and got a taste for actually having a little money in the bank, and don't necessarily want to go back to working for free again. Because I'll say that, the whole time I was working for USA Basketball and UCCS as a manager, I've been on that volunteer side for a long time. So I'm ready to make a little bit of money. So it's been a grind. Probably the worst time to be looking for a job. But I will say, just, this rising coaches experience has been amazing. I don't know what I would have done without it, to be honest. With a lot of jobs I've applied for, even if they fell through, there's been multiple ones where, Adam, either you've helped me even just with a phone number or a contact, or, even a few people that I've met through, the Meet Two Coaches a Month program have helped me with, again, a phone number, or, putting in a reference. So that's been great, but it's really just navigating hoop dirt that I've gotten a little better at. Previously, I would just apply to jobs that were open, in the job section, but now I've been kind of tracking movement a lot more. So I've been emailing, when I see like an assistant leave or a new coach get hired, I've been emailing either that coach to say, hey, just saw your assistant left or took over this other job. Wondering if you got, if you're looking to bring on a new assistant. And I've actually gotten a lot of responses. One, for instance, was a D3 in Georgia. I've been talking to that coach because his assistant took over the women's job. But I think I was saying this to Adam yesterday, that assistant spot isn't full-time anymore, potentially with COVID. They're having to cut some budgets. But yeah, it's been a grind, just kind of navigating online is really the only way to do it right now with no in-person networking. But I mean, Rising Coaches has been huge as well.
Yeah, for sure. So anybody out there who's got a job, my man's a free agent. So call Eric.
Yes, sir.
More than qualified. He's worn many hats at many different levels. So make sure you reach out to him directly, or, you can hit us up and we can put you in touch. But excited to see where you land next, Eric. I have no doubt that everything. I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and it's hard to keep that in mind when you're going through it. But
right.
I'm excited to see what's next and what's in store for you. So
appreciate it, Adam.
Eric, well done, man. Appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's shift gears and say hello to Amber. What's up, Amber?
Hey, Adam. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
So Amber, same thing. We're going to kind of get your background to start off. First of all, you're an assistant coach at Incarnate Word.
Yes, in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, great city.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of have an interesting path. I was kind of reading a little bit about it. You played at Rice, right? Take us from there. Take us from your playing career.
Okay, I'm actually going to take it back a little farther.
Sure.
Because similar to I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Menelik.
Yeah.
Okay, similar to his story. Like, basketball's been a part of my life, like all my life, and it actually started. I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 4, going on 5 years old. And part of my going through the chemotherapy process was shooting hoops in the back patio, not even a backyard, but a back patio, with my dad. So he introduced me to basketball. And like I said, summertime at the Park and Rec League in Los Angeles, because that's where I'm from, to high school and having good success there. And then, like you said, that took me into Rice University, and I was actually signed in the late period. So I had applied to, I think, 20 plus schools, because I wasn't even sure if I was going to get a scholarship or not. But Rice came through in the clutch, if you will, in May, and I signed with them and went on to play under Coach McKinney for my first 3 years, and we had pretty good success. And then my last year, we had a new coach. So, you don't always know what to expect. We had just So my junior season, we made it to the NCAA tournament for the second time in that program history. And the following year, we got a new coach. It's my senior year. I have one opportunity to try it again. We didn't make it, but we went to the WNIT. So 3 out of 4 years, we had an opportunity to play in the postseason. So that was exciting. From there, I ended up playing overseas in Germany, Romania, and Finland. Came back, didn't really know what to do. Got my master's in teaching, secondary, and went back to LA to do that. Then got an offer to work at Rice University with Coach Williams, who was my coach my senior year. From there, it turned into an assistant coaching job at University of Louisiana Monroe, and then again in San Antonio at University of the Incarnate Word.
Yeah, amazing story. So it's crazy. Isn't that crazy how it works? Like, well, first of all, going back to like the origin of your love of basketball, powerful stuff. I didn't know that about you. So
yeah, no, not many people do.
yeah. And then like you had a great career, but like, you know, you didn't, like you were saying, you didn't get signed till the late period till May, which I'm super stressful.
Well, I went to a super small school. Like, even though I was in Los Angeles, my graduating class was like 18 people.
Where did you go to school?
Pilgrim High School.
Oh, okay. I went to Viewpoint, and we used to play Pilgrim every once in a while.
Yeah, so it was a tiny school, and the divisions in California seemed to work backwards from most other states. So we were Division 5, and when I started coming to Texas and telling people that, they're like, "Oh, you had such a big school." I'm like, "No, we were tiny,
right?
And we're backwards." So Division 1 and City Section are the big schools out there. And actually, funny enough, when I was getting my master's in teaching, you know, you have to do your in-service like observations and teach in the classroom and whatnot. I ended up at Fairfax High School, and we'd actually played them several times for summer league type stuff. And the coach was still there, and she asked me if I wanted to come help out. And that's kind of where my actual coaching journey started. So
yeah, how was that? How was starting at the high school level? And Fairfax, for people that don't know, like powerhouse. Yeah, that is like, you know, level. What is it, Division 1 or?
Yeah, I think they're City Section, something like that, because they're just huge.
Right.
No, that was so much fun and a lot of learning and working with the coach who'd been there for forever. Like, from when I finished graduating high school, she was still there. I think she just recently retired, maybe a few years ago. But I learned a lot, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, I think I'd like to do this like full time. And she said, go for it. And then Rice had an opening, and I applied, and
was it a big transition from, you know, the high school level to Rice? What was your position at Rice? Were you video coordinator?
I was a video coordinator. So in a sense, it was actually a big transition because I couldn't do anything on the basketball court, you know, the NCAA rules. But again, I got to learn a lot about synergy and helped with on-campus recruiting. And it helped that I had attended Rice when it came to the on-campus recruiting and having the recruits on campus. So I did appreciate that, and Coach Williams including me in things as much as he was able to for the NCAA rules and all that. Let's see, I was able to coach the intramural team, so that was really fun.
Nice. Did you play as well? Player coach or just coach?
No, I just coached. And then we had a track athlete on there, and she was our best player. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I've got a championship T-shirt from my time at Clemson for dodgeball intramurals that I like to brag about every once in a while.
When were you at Clemson?
I'm sorry?
When were you at Clemson?
I was there. I was a GA there from 08 to 11.
So you were with Coach McKinney?
Well, I was on the men's
overlap.
side.
Oh, on the men's side. Okay, I think Coach McKinney might have been there at that time.
She was there, and then Coach Coleman came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all stole my coach.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. This is not about me. This is about you, Amber. So let's get back to it. So when you got the job at ULM as an assistant, going from video, now you're back on the court. Was that awesome? Was it just like amazing to be,
Oh yeah.
coaching again? But also you're in Monroe, Louisiana, originally from Southern California. So
Yeah,
I
there's
imagine there's a little culture shock too.
a little bit. It went from California, Los Angeles has millions of people to I think just under like 100,000 for Monroe, which I guess isn't tiny, but coming from big cities and even Houston, that's so tiny. So it was definitely a little bit of a culture shock and just access to different activities, and food places being open, not as late as you would have in a big city. But when you're there working and recruiting, that doesn't come into play as much. So that was also another big transition from a video coordinator to assistant coach was the recruiting, the off-campus recruiting aspect of it, and just the travel and with a budget where you are driving a lot more. Um, that was an adjustment.
Yeah, for sure. But again, being from LA, the
Yeah.
driving, you're used to being in a car. Okay, so I read this on your bio. So after Monroe,
hmm
you coached minor league baseball?
No, not baseball. It was
Okay. Did I
so
read that wrong or is it a typo? I think there's a typo in your bio.
no, it's MLBA.
Okay.
So yeah, it seems like it would be major league, but it was minor league basketball association. So
That makes a lot more sense.
yeah, a semi-pro men's team here in San Antonio. So that was another experience that I got to have coaching because I wasn't actually coaching women's basketball at that time. I'd moved down here and I worked at GM Financial in collections. That I got cursed out on the phone my first time out of training. So that was a fun experience. And then from there, I went to a charter high school, and then I got back to UIW. So in the meantime, I was coaching the Alamo City Aztecs. I was an assistant coach with them. And I know people are like, well, what's the difference? And I feel like while women are categorized as emotional, men are just as emotional. I've noticed is how it's handled that's a little bit different.
Can you get more into that? Yeah, tell us about that.
Like they might go at each other and then kind of like let it go, or some of the conversations they have with each other are just more intense. But at the end of the day, they're trying to play basketball, I think, is their focus. So they don't like pout about stuff as much, is what I've noticed. But the emotions are there. They're definitely there.
We're just good at compartmentalizing, I think.
I guess so.
So what was it like being out of like college coaching and being like in the corporate world for a couple of years?
It was strange. You're like collections, you're like tied to that desk. Voicemail after voicemail. I mean, people don't want to hear or don't want to get phone calls about money that they owe. So on the one hand, it was tough, but I guess it helped with communication as well. And I think the high school side really helped with that, being at that charter school and seeing that particularly some of the kids that I was working with, how much of behavior issues are a symptom of something behind the scenes. So it's a defensive mechanism, it's anger, it's sadness, it's hurt, but it comes off in disrespectful ways. And I think the kids are trying to protect themselves. So that was a huge learning experience when you get to like sit and talk with the kids and learn like what's going on behind the scenes. You're like, okay.
For sure.
Let's try to move this way in this setting.
Yeah, I'm sure you use that like experience all the time in like everyday life and in coaching, right?
Yeah, I mean, it applies to everything because behavior is symptom, in my opinion, and experience.
Behavior is, I got to write that down. Say that again.
The behavior is the symptom.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Okay, so how long have you been at Incarnate Word now?
May 15th started my second year.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And we haven't been Division I too long. I think they went Division I 14, 15, like in that time frame. Before we got there, they were 5-24, and then last season we had a really good season, like for the program as a Division I, like part of the history, and having a double-digit win season, making it to the conference tournament for the first time, and then having it canceled before you get to play. But you know, that was devastating to see our players.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
they
But
worked
you
so
get it
hard
done.
throughout the season, but we understand.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are really building it and building it the right way, which I'm
Yeah.
sure is fun to be a part of.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting next year. We have quite a few new people, freshmen and JUCO kids. So the summer would have been helpful for that.
For sure. So tell us like your ultimate goal, and maybe not even like ultimate, but like, short-term goal as well. Next 5 years, where do you want to be? And like 20 years, where do you want to be?
Oh boy, next 5 years. I'm sure I'll still be here for a little bit. I think me and my head coach have a good relationship and everything. So we work pretty well together. Um, Something that keeps entering my mind is sports psychology. I took a few classes when I was at Rice, and it just has a huge impact on me. So maybe in 20 years, I'll be doing something in sports psychology or performance psychology.
Oh, wow, that's great.
But at some
So
point, I'd like to be Dr. Cunningham. So that's a whole other path.
yeah, that's amazing. Do you have aspirations of being a head coach? Like, what's your next like coaching stop? Whether it's, like again, 10 years from now or like 10 months from now, what do you want that to be? Do you want to be like a head coach of your own program? Do you want to try to be an assistant at a higher level, lower level? What's your thoughts on that?
Open to a couple of things because I really have only coached under one head coach. So even being an assistant coach with a different coach, I'm open to. Head coaching obviously would be an awesome opportunity. Not hung up on the level necessarily either with that, um, with head coaching or the assistant coach. Just good opportunity. Kind of like how Heather Macy talks about a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
The opportunities and what those opportunities can lead to. So,
for sure.
yeah.
All right, cool. Well, Amber, great job.
Thank you for having me.
A little bit more about you. Well, I want to do this. I want to open it up. If anybody has questions for either Eric or Amber, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. But yeah, again, great job, Amber, and great job, Eric. Any questions from anybody before we let these two go about their day?
Ain't no questions.
All right. Well, guys, you did such a great job that you've left everybody speechless, which is great. So again, thanks again for doing this, both of you guys, and hopefully it'll be beneficial and people get a chance to know you a little bit more, and anything we can do to promote you guys is what we're all about. So hopefully this helps.
Well, thank you for hosting this, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate it, everybody.